All right. Excellent. Thank you. All right. Well, fantastic. We're going to talk about finances. We're going to talk about decreasing debt, increasing income, and therefore increasing net worth. Here's the key here. If you've been following the news, one of the articles that appeared on the internet just in the last week was an article that was talking about the billionaires that have lost billions. And I was reading about one individual who was a billionaire and is now worth zero. Now, the interesting thing is that a lot of times people don't realize it's not how much money we make, it's how much money we keep. It's like the whole example of, and you've probably heard the stories or read the stories about people who win the lottery, win millions of dollars in the lottery within 5 years. They've lost all that money, and some of them are in serious debt as a result of having the money. So money in itself is just a means of exchange. Being able to make it is one thing, and there are people who make a lot of money in a relatively short period of time, but the reality is they don't know what to do with it when they make it. So in our business is not just about making the money. Though we talk about how to make money here this weekend, and it's going to be a majority about what we're emphasizing. We're going to cover the recognition, we're going to cover the reward, and we're going to cover the strategy to make those things happen so you can set goals and go out there and make your business prosper. So we want to help you make the money. But here in our business, and because of our relationship, we also want you to be able to keep the money. And so we're going to be talking today about finances, your personal finances. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of my story so you get a picture, because probably there might be somebody that could be as destitute as I was, but I doubt it. I had managed, with a college education, graduated, got a job at Shakey's Pizza Parlors. Most of you know this story. Moved up from basically a busboy and a bartender and a cook up to the youngest and highest paid general manager for Shakey's in the United States, which is no big deal because I couldn't live on the money I was making. And as a matter of fact, I got a job as a janitor. Not because I like being a janitor, though I tried to tell people that it was kind of something to take up some time. The reality was I needed to actually have that extra income to help pay my debt. In reality, the two jobs combined did not pay my total minimum payments. Here's what I'd managed to accomplish in the 3.5 years after I graduated from college. At the end of college, I didn't have a place to live. I lived in my Volkswagen with a high-strung English pointer dog. That was the high point. From there, I got promotions at where I worked. My boss said to me, if I was to expect to continue to get promotions, I'm going to have to show some roots. He recommended that I buy a house. I borrowed the down payment, and I financed the home for 30 years. I had a car. It died, but I was still making payments on it, so I got another car. So I had two payments, one car that ran. I also had managed to get some credit cards. They kept sending them to me, so I had 17 credit cards to the limit at 27 years old. I also had financed my one automobile more than once. Now, that's not legal, but it's past the 7 years, and I've also paid off the debt. But the point was, I actually financed it, and back then, they didn't hold the note. I was supposed to take the note down to the bank, and I got a call from Dial Finance. They said they had $5,000 waiting for me of my money. The dirty dogs, they wanted their money back later on. But I took, and they wanted collateral, so I said, would a car title work? I gave it to them. So the bank and the finance company both had a loan on the car. Now, I'm telling you that only to say that I was in bad financial shape. I was not doing bad financially because I was making good money. I had a good title. I had a part-time job. I had a brand new car. I had another car in the driveway that never moved. I had all of these things, but I was so far in debt. My net worth was so negative, it was staggering. So along comes the business. Along comes Dwight and Margaret Ann Smith, and we started the business. Now, here was the interesting thing. I had no money to do the business. And for the first 7 months, I put nothing into the business, or basically nothing. I would borrow the tapes I listened to, but if I was going to, they would have to loan me the book, because I didn't invest in tools. I didn't go to meetings because I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford to take the time off, and I couldn't afford the ticket. I actually, what's the word? I actually tried to negotiate $1 to get into a meeting one time and said I didn't have one with me. It was a BDS back when they were $1. Can you imagine that? They made me pay it. They made me borrow the $1. All right? Just took my debt into, and that's what I looked at and thinking, I can't afford this additional debt. So now, there's where my situation was. Once I started going to meetings, the first real meeting that I went to, I heard about financial freedom. I heard about being debt-free. I decided I wanted it, made a commitment to the business. And that was the last weekend of September in 1975. At the end of December, we qualified as a new silver. Okay, the application, no different than you. You can be here this weekend, and every single one of you can qualify as new silvers. If you decide you want to do that, that's great. It's going to increase your income. If we added another $2,500 or $3,000 or even $3,500 a month to your income, by the end of March, coming in full payment in April, would that help your finances? If you had another $3,000 a month to apply to your finances, could you reduce debt? Absolutely. All right? So it's not the matter of getting the money because you have that vehicle in your hands. But there are some things that Dwight came along and helped me with. He sat down and he helped me with my finances. And here is the order of what you need to put in place to get control of your finances. The first thing you need is awareness. You need to be aware of where you're at financially. The simplest way to do it is when you go home to sit down and take out every bill that you have. Now, there are two types of bills that you have. You have the ones where you've already got the service, the object, or whatever, and you are now carrying a debt. That would be a credit card debt, a mortgage, a financial payment of some kind, what's called consumer debt. You want to write them all down. And what you want, best way to do it would be to make a 3x5 card. You make your list and then make a 3x5 card. Title the card, it might be home mortgage. The amount that is totally owed, what you totally owe, and what your monthly payment is, and if you have a date that it'll be paid off, the date. Okay? Now, you get down that, then you get down to your revolving credit card debt. Now, that's going to vary, so you have to take your current minimum payment and your current balance, how much you owe. And so you might say Visa card, or if you have several Visa cards, Citibank Visa card. And then you make a list of all those. So you have all of those. Now, here's what's not included in this list. Your utility bill is not a debt. It is not something you're going to pay off. It is something you are going to have your entire life. Your light bill, your phone bill, your cell phone, those type of things are objects that are of necessity that you pay for as you go, and if you don't pay those, you are going to find that they are going to turn them off or take them away. How many of you are aware of that? You might not have had it happen. How many of you are aware of that rule? You don't pay for it, you don't get it, okay? But the credit cards and the things you've already consumed, you can always tell if they can't get it because when you don't pay them, they speak loudly and rudely and threateningly. Right? And so that's when you know that there's nothing they can get from you other than your credit rating. So there are two different categories there. Now, both of them need to be paid because we want to have good reputation in our finances, and I'll tell you more about what happens when that comes about in a little bit. But so we're going to take a look at the debt first. Now we're going to take a look at your total net income. This is the money coming in, not counting your business at this point. Let's take your jobs and whatever sources of income you have coming in, and we want to add that up. Now, if the bottom line, then we're going to subtract out the average cost of your utilities, your phone, your electricity, your garbage collection, whatever, okay, that you're going to be paying every month. We take that out. Now, that's different. We'll leave the mortgage over here for just a second. All right, so because those are expenses you're going to have that you have to pay for. I subtract that out. Now you have the amount of money that you have as disposable income. I hate that word because that's not correct. It's discretionary income, how you're going to apply it. The first things you're going to pay for, expenses, are your mortgage and your car payments, or your rent and your car payments. You're going to need to pay for those. Now, how many of you in the room you're either paying for health insurance on your own, in other words, your employer's not supplying it, and or life insurance on your own? May I see your hands? Okay, great. You need to know you need those things. A lot of people, what they do is they think, oh, I'll take a chance. Well, you're not taking a chance, that really works out real well, because if you're wrong at that bet, it's going to be very, very costly. So be sure that your family is taken care of at all times. All right? So those things go over there as part of those expenses that you need to have. Now, what's left is what you have to pay off your consumer debt. Now, it might be that the amount of money that you have left over to pay for your consumer debt is less than the minimum payments you have on your consumer debt. If you have that problem, I can identify with that. I had that problem. So I ended up going to a meeting at my friend's house in February of 1975 with sub-zero weather in my Volkswagen that barely started to take a look at a way to make some money. Now, I needed about $200 a month to break even. Now, I wasn't counting food because I ate at Shakey's every day. I had that advantage. I hung out there. It became my social life. I mean, that's where my whole world went around. People say, well, you're such a company person. No, I didn't have any money to go anyplace else, including home. So I lived at Shakey's. I was there Christmas. I was there New Year's. I was there. It was my social life. My friends, everything revolved around Shakey's because it had to, because I didn't have any other money. And I went home, and people were calling me at home and reminding me that I didn't have any money and that I had their money, and they wanted it back. So it was simpler and easier and more fun to be at work, okay? So if you've got that problem and you're not working in a restaurant, we need to work on this right away. All right, because we got to get back to eating. Now, it doesn't look like anybody's not doing the eating part, so I'll just assume that we're okay there. Now, so the first thing is awareness, and you need to identify. And here's the other thing that's important in awareness. If you are married, if you have a significant other, and you live together, you are taking those financial responsibilities together, especially if you're married by law. So being unaware of what's going on in your household is not an excuse that you can take to court. So I don't want to know about it, and therefore I can spend on the credit cards anytime I want, and I don't care which partner I'm talking to, you need to get back to reality. The reality is awareness. You need to know, and need to know as a couple. 90% of divorces are caused by finances, and not the abundance of, the lack of. More arguments, more fights come about spending, people buying things, and it is absolutely amazing to me as I sit and I listen to, people who are talking, and part of your relationship is knowledge, is common knowledge about what's going on in your household, is becoming familiar with those things. Now, you don't have to be an accountant, you just need to know. Now, once you have awareness, now what the next thing you need to have is balance. And what I mean by balance is don't spend more money than you're making. Now, what you've done up to this point is where you're at. If you're in that situation, great. And some of you in the room might not be in any situation. I just want to make sure you don't get there. Because as your income increases, people have a tendency to spend and continue to spend, and they just the income might level off, and they keep on spending. So understand, if you're okay and say, okay, I can make all my payments every month. We want to get past that. How many people in the room have a goal to be debt-free? Okay, so understand that if you have any debt at all, this applies to you. So the next area is actually creating balance. Now, let me explain balance to you. First off, let's talk about net worth. Net worth is the value of your assets. Now, if you've read and listened to Robert Kiyosaki, he says, do not count your house because you always have to have one. So if you sell your house, you've got to buy another one. So you can turn in the equity on that house, and then you've got cash for a while, but now what you're doing is you're going to have to your style of life, get a smaller house or a less expensive house. you're not going to be able to convert any of that. So you're always going to have a house as long as you live, so you might as well not count that as part of your net worth. So here's what happened. When I sat down with Dwight made me go through and I charted these things out. The next thing I needed to do, and what he said is you need to balance. What it means is don't spend more money than you make, regardless of what's going on. All right? Stay within that parameter. And so that's where the discipline started coming in. So I had to start looking at things that I was buying and say to myself, do I really need this? Is this something that is going to enhance my life in such a way that it's worth spending this money and continuing to have debt? Right? And that self-analysis, I had to stay mentally broke all of the time. If I got cash in my hand, as long as I had cash in my hand, I had net worth. As soon as I bought something, I didn't have net worth. Let me give you an example. The shirt that I'm wearing is a custom-made shirt by Mr. Kim. It's been measured 5 times in the sleeves, 4 times in the chest, and it was made for this body. I picked the collar, I picked the buttonholes, I picked everything about this shirt. I buy them a dozen at a time. They cost me about $35. Right? If I were to buy this quality of shirt in any store, it would cost somewhere between $70 and $100. So I feel though I got a really good deal. Right? Now, if I have $35 in my hand, I have $35 net worth. If I buy this shirt for $35, I now have a shirt. Now, I need to have a shirt to wear. Right? Do I need 12 shirts? No, not necessarily. I could wear the same shirt over and over again. So if I had, whatever that calculates out to, if I had 12 times 35 in my hand and I buy 12 shirts, I'm going a little bit past need. I'm going a little bit more into lifestyle, aren't I? Regardless, let's go back to the one shirt. If I have one shirt that I just paid $35 for, now what is my net worth? The value of the shirt. How much is the shirt worth? Well, no. If you have a garage sale, what do you get for a shirt? $2. This is different than the other group. Somebody said $5 over there. I said, if you get $5 in a garage sale for a used shirt, run, okay? Because you got a deal, all right? All right. So now, let's say it was worth $2. All right? So now I had $35. I bought a shirt. I no longer need the shirt, or I need the money. So I sell the shirt to get the money. Now I have $2. All right? You see the point? Okay. Anytime we buy something consumable, you buy an automobile, you drive it off the lot, you have just dropped the value of the automobile about 20%. Right? Homes supposedly will go up, but sometimes they don't. All right? Or you have to keep them for a long time, right? Based on where they are. All right? So understand that when we're consuming, when we have lifestyle, when we buy that, we are trading net worth for it. So anything that we possess and use on a daily basis is not part of our net worth. Our net worth is the stuff that we don't touch that has value to other people, carries value. All right? So now we want to create the balance. Also, here's one other point I want to make, and I want to make it strongly, and just so that we're all on the same page. If I have no money, zero money, and I take a credit card and I buy a $35 shirt, I am now $35 in debt. But yet the shirt is only worth $2. So if I sell the shirt, take the $2 to start paying off the debt, which I'm paying interest on, I am now still $35 in debt. And next month I'm going to be further in debt, further in debt, further in debt, and further in debt because I borrowed the money to pay for the shirt. Do you know how many people, maybe some in this room, have gone out in the last 2 weeks to sales and used credit cards to buy stuff they don't need because they were on super sales that now are worth less than what they bought it for? I don't care what the sale price was. Right? Because this is consumerism. This is the trap that we do. We have the largest outlet mall in the world. They already have discounts. They were having discounts on the discounts on the discounts. And people were saying to me, I went out to the outlet mall, I bought this and this and this, and man, I almost paid nothing for it. Regardless of what they paid for it, it's still worth less than that. Trust me, I'm telling you, right? That's consumerism. That's consumer debt. That will not make you debt-free, and that will not increase your net worth. You have to resist it. Right? You say, but it was a sale. Understand. I've been there. I have done that. You know what's even worse than that? You buy something that it doesn't fit. because they don't have it in your size. But you're going to lose the weight. And you're going to get the money to pay the credit card before the interest. Thou shalt not kid thyself. All right? Don't buy something that doesn't work for you just because it's on sale. All right? Now, I know that should be logic, but the reality is I'm just assuming there's somebody in the room that was in the same mental predicament that I was in. I have done everything that I'm going to talk about. All right? So I know there's at least one other person in this room that might have at least been tempted by some of these things. All right. So now we get balance. We look at everything we're doing and we analyze it. If we want to be debt-free, we're going to have to go about a strategy. We're going to have to increase our income so we have more discretionary income to pay off debt and not increase the debt at the same time. We have to work as a household, as a family, on that goal. Now, here's what happened. Once Dwight started me on the process, I stuck to it. I paid the smallest payment off first. It didn't make any difference who was yelling the loudest. None of the stuff made any difference. He said, start with the smallest balance and pay it off first. Attack it. Attack the smallest one first and then take the money. And it might take a month, 2, 3, 4 months to pay that off. I had a dental bill that I was making payments on, and it was only like $75, $80, and it was only like $20 a month that I was paying on it, but I was paying interest on it. He said, let's try that one first. That was the smallest one. So I paid that off. Well, now I had the $20. I could apply that to the next thing. I had a credit card. I had all kinds of credit cards. I had 17 of them. I had one that they all had different balances because I had different credit lines, but there was one that the payment wasn't that big. It was like $50 or $60 a month. I went and attacked that, paid that one off next. I just started working on that. Make a long story short, business was increasing, and in that same 2 years, I continued building at the speed of which I built from zero to silver, and at the end of those 2 years, I was an emerald. I was making almost 4 times more than I was making at my full-time job, which I kept, and my part-time job as a janitor, which I kept, and I set that goal to keep both of them until I paid off my debt. So my income was going up, so everything was being applied. I had less credit cards, I had less bills to pay, and so at the end of 2 years, I was 100% totally debt-free. I had moved to a house that was 3 times bigger than the house I was living in when I started, that I was totally in debt for, and I paid cash for that. I had 4 cars sitting in the driveway, of which 3 of them were Cadillacs, 2 were Cadillacs, 1 was a Mercedes, and 1 was a conversion van, all paid for. I had 9 months' income from my jobs in the bank in 2 years. 2 years later, I was a qualified millionaire. And what I mean by a qualified millionaire, my house didn't count. None of my assets, none of my furniture, none of my stuff. I didn't even count my jewelry that I'd bought. It was strictly my assets, my investments that I had created. Now, and it's gone up from there. You've heard some of the stories. And and the thing is it all came from awareness, balance, and strategy. Awareness, balance, and strategy. It became my dream, my desire to not only be debt-free, but to increase my net worth. Now, one of the fortunate things that have, this last year, a lot of people, went south with their finances, and in reality, my net worth is higher today than it was a year ago. My income is higher than it was a year ago. Because I am constantly considering myself broke, I am constantly working on increasing my income and controlling my debt. Now, I do carry debt, but it's debt to increase my net worth, investment debt, right? But I don't leverage my debt. Nobody wants to have back an investment that isn't making any money, right? So in other words, if I buy an apartment, I make sure that apartment is making money from day one. Now, there are a lot of people that will say that's a bad idea. What you want to do is you want to rent them at the highest you can. You want to mortgage them until somebody else is paying your mortgage. That's right. I understand that theory. And all of those people right now are hurting big time. Because as soon as you don't have a renter, it doesn't pay. As soon as it doesn't pay, the bank wants its money back. They don't want the house because the house isn't worth that much money anymore. So they're after you, they're after your credit rating. And here's this credit rating that was so good and it drops. I wanted to have a credit rating. When I moved to San Marcos, Texas, I put my money in my banks. I didn't think that much about it. And I got this beautiful flower arrangement, centerpiece, at Christmas time. And I was so thankful. I called them up and I said, thank you very much. And they said, no, thank you. And I said, oh, no, thank you. And I thought, everybody in the bank got one of those. No, you had to be at a certain level of money of yours in their bank for them to see you as a person that deserves a centerpiece for your house. I just got a beautiful ham, a huge ham. And I got that from my insurance broker. And he called me up to make sure he got it. He was skiing. He called me up several times, wished me Merry Christmas, and then he called up and he said, "Did you get my gift?" I said, "Yes, thank you very much. I was gonna call you. I know you were busy, and I was gonna call you and thank you when you got back." He says, "Oh," he said. Now this is what he said. I said, "That was really generous of you." He says, "We only have that for our very best customers." Well, I guarantee you, most people do not make as much a year as I pay in life insurance, because I want to make sure that my family is taken care of. So it is part of my investment. Well, he likes that idea. I call him to add insurance. He doesn't even get a chance to call me. If I need more insurance, he doesn't need to call me. I'll call him, right? Because I know what I want. I know what I want to have in place. So now, here's some of the serendipities. First off, everybody's going to want to give you money when you don't need it. I got a call from a new bank account I set up. They wanted to give me a line of credit. I said, "Well, thank you very much, but I don't need it." And they said, "We'll give it to you just in case." I said, "Okay." Right? So I have a line of credit. I have credit cards that have no limit. Right? You imagine that? Right? I could buy a house with my credit card. I could buy a big house with my credit card. I haven't tried any house with my credit card, but I'm sure that I can get along in pretty ways. Right? What's the point? The point is I don't need the money. I don't use the money. So therefore, they want me to have it. Right? Because I am a good credit rate. I'm a good credit risk. I always pay my debts on time. I don't have debt. I create things and pay them off. Now, Becky called me up. Becky's my oldest daughter, and she's married, has my grandson. And they had a car that was one of mine, and I gave it to her when she graduated from high school. But it's a two-door. It's the old Yukon two-door, and it's a classic. It's really cool because it's a two-door. The only trouble is it's not really good when you got to get in and out of the back seat with with baby and so forth. So she's driven the wheels off of it as their spare car. And so she called up the other day and said, "We've decided to buy a car," which is unique because my daughter doesn't spend money on anything because she has been brought up with the idea of having money, always thinking of herself as mentally broke. And, I've kind of thought for the last couple of years she needed to buy a car, especially after she had a baby. Well, she's made the decision, her and her husband, to get a car. So she called up and said, "Dad, I got a predicament." I said, "What's that?" She said, "I'm trying to buy a car." I said, "Okay. What's your predicament?" I know she's got the money. Now, I knew she was going to finance it, but I knew that she had, money for down payment and so forth, and that she'd have no trouble paying it. And I knew she had enough money in the bank that if she wanted to, she could pay cash. So she said, "I'm trying to buy the car, but I'm trying to buy a Honda, and they aren't having the problems that the other car makers are having, so they don't seem to be negotiating." And I said, "Okay." She said, "I've been to two of them, and they won't budge on the price. And because I don't have a credit history," which is my fault that she doesn't have a credit history because she's always paid cash. She said, "So even though I have a great credit rating, they're charging me extra percentage." And so I said, "Okay." She said, "Would you go with me?" And I said, "Sure." So I made her a deal. I had to explain beforehand, okay, there's going to be some rules here. Okay, number one, am I going to embarrass you? Now, she knows that I am going to negotiate here. I'm not there to make this person's day. I'm there to buy a car at the lowest possible price possible. Right? She loves everybody. So I said, the problem she has is she's willing to not hurt anybody's feelings. And so then I had to explain to her, They are not going to change the price of this automobile. What we are negotiating is the interest rate, which has nothing to do with the salesman. All right? This big company called Honda, who's got lots and lots of money, want to make more money from you because you have a good credit rating but no history. So we are going to get you some history by buying this car and making payments, but we're not going to pay the extra amount. Okay, that wasn't quite that dramatic, but that's the point. All right? She just got it at, am I going to embarrass you? She didn't need to know the rest at that particular point, but I needed to let her know that the poor salesman was not going to starve to death. He's going to get his commission. This has to do with the guys on the back end that she's never going to meet. So we sat down. The first question I asked the young man, Jason, I said, how long have you been working here? He said 8 months. And my mouth immediately salivated. Okay. Because I knew that he would have nothing to do with this. Every time when we had a discussion, he had to run to another room. All right? Now, so we went through the process. I let Becky do all of everything that she'd done before. Same price, same payment. And there was some other deal that they were trying to do some add-ons. We got those taken off right away. I said, those are absurd. Take those off. He did. Okay. So then we had it right down to where it was. And the other previous 2 dealerships, same type of car, same exact car. And so he looked up her finances for the financing, and that's where he came up with the figure. He said, as the other 2 said, you have a great credit rating, but you have no history. So he said, you have a choice of 60 months, 72 months, 75 months. And I go, whoa, wait a second. I said, first off, we're not going to lower the price by increasing the thing. I already done that. First car I ever bought was $69 down, $69 a month, and I have no idea what the car cost. Because all people do is they just try to fit their budget. So they'll do $69 down, $69 a month forever. The car's history, it's dead, it's gone, it's been reconstructed, it's been refurbished or whatever, and they're still making the payments because it didn't make any difference because all I had to do was pay $69 a month. Now, I'm going to get that figure down. So I put the ace in the hole. I said, let's do my credit rating. I'll co-sign. He said, okay. So I gave him my name, my social security number, my age, or my birthday, and he looked it up, and he did this. Here's the screen. He pulled his face closer to the screen. He has never seen that credit score before, because nobody with that credit score would buy a Honda. Sorry. So, he goes, well, yeah, see what we can do. So he goes back in, comes back out, and I can't remember if it was 10 or 20. I think it was $20 less a month that we immediately carved off because of my credit rating. Right? That wasn't even close. I said, okay, that's not good enough. He said, well, what have you gotten for a price before? I said, I'm not going to tell you. He said, well, you have to give me a figure. And I said, no, I don't. He said, well, how do I know what I have to beat? I said, you are going to give me your very best price. If it's good enough, we are going to buy right now. If it's not, we're gone and we're not coming back. Okay? Now, why can I do that? One, I had enough money in my pocket to buy the stupid car. And then we would have dealt with a whole different thing. I was ready to finance the car, but I wanted Becky to have the credit history. Right? She needed to get into that. She has no problem making her payments. She had plenty of money. She had enough money to buy the car. The point here was to get this down to an interest rate that was appropriate for this time, for that car, for these ratings. And he had never dealt with this before. So we had to make this run back and forth as he was negotiating. When he came back and he said, you're going to have to give us a figure. And I said, no, you don't understand. You need to right now give me a figure. And he just looked absolutely panicked. And this is where I took over. I knew I already had just stood up, him on the hook. And he goes, wait, just like that. So I said, all right, Now, very honestly, I'm calculating all the way through this. Every time he's out of the room, Becky and I are calculating. We're calculating not the price of the car, we're calculating interest rates. Okay? How many months? Interest rates. So when he came back in, I lowballed him. I thought a lowball. I thought it undoable. Right? But I thought, I'm going to rate this guy. I'm going to give him a figure, and these guys are all going to go back, and they are going to choke, okay, to make the deal or not make the deal. I gave him the figure, and his face went white. He said, okay, and then he writes it on a piece of paper, has Becky sign it that this is the deal, and so he leaves the room. He comes back in the room about 20 minutes later. He says, it's a deal, like he was surprised. And though I was also surprised, I'd indicated to Becky, he'll come back and take this. I was just trying to be positive. So we cut enough off of the monthly payment from the best deal they could do to pay for all of her fuel for her car while she owns it. All right? Huh? Is that good? All right? Would you like to have that kind of power? Yes. Okay, first off, you have to get yourself in a position where you don't need to pay for it with a credit. When you go to do it, you're doing it for credit history, you're doing it for convenience, you're doing it for whatever. I bought a motorhome one time, and I didn't have enough money to get the pay cash for the motorhome without taking out my cash flow from my company. So I ran into the bank. I have somebody that's assigned to me, my bank, personal bank advisor, or whatever they call that person, and he wasn't there. This other guy was there. He says, well, I can handle this. And I said, okay, great. I don't have a lot of time. Can you put $100,000 into my checking account? He said, no. And I said, no. I need it because I'm going to go buy this motorhome because we're going to go on this trip. I need to buy it today. Can you just go ahead and put $100,000 in my checking account? He says, oh, no, this has to go. We have to have a credit approval. We have to do this, this, and this. And I said, I don't have time for this. I said, put the money in my checking account. And he said, oh, I can't do that. I said, how long have you worked here? And I don't remember what he said, 2-3 years. And I said, can you get a hold of my bank officer? He said, no, he's not available. I said, can you get a hold of the vice president or the president or whoever you need to get a hold of? Because you don't want to make this job decision right now, I don't think. And he said, what do you mean? I said, okay. I took out this card that I had in my wallet. I started reading off account numbers. And I read them off. I said, pull these up and take a look at them. And I read off 4 of, I think, 6 or 7 that we had. And I read them off. I said, are you sure you want to turn down this offer for me to keep my accounts here? He said, I'll put the money in right now. Why? Because in the accounts that I gave him, there was more money in the other accounts. This was a temporary thing until I got through the weekend, and until I got back from my trip that I could straighten it out, in which I ended up paying cash for the vehicle. Right? The reasoning I'm telling you this is because this is the results of getting your finances in hand. Is getting yourself in a position that you don't need the money. Everybody knows you don't need the money. When they look up those scores, they're going, wow. That they send you stuff because they love having your accounts. While I was negotiating this car for Becky, I get a call, a second call, third call, from the Cadillac dealership I buy my cars from. The first call I got was the owner, Billy Cavender. Billy calls up and says, hi, this is Billy. Like I'm supposed to know who this is, right? But I said, well, hey, Billy, how you doing? He says, great. He says, I just want to call and say Merry Christmas. And listen, we're kind of desperate down here. We're selling cars like you wouldn't believe, for prices you wouldn't believe. And he says, I know you got 2 new cars, but would you even consider taking advantage of one of our deals? I said, gee, I don't know. Have Bob call me. Bob's the guy I normally buy my cars from. He said, okay, yeah, I'll have Bob. Bob calls me up and says, hey, Merry Christmas. How you doing? And then the next time he calls was right when we were not just sitting there, we'd gone in, we hadn't started yet, and called and said, listen, I've got a car I think you want. Can I send it up to you to try out? Now, the last time he did that, I put 1,200 miles on the car. Right? Didn't seem to bother me. He's going to send me another one. And I said, well, actually, I'm leaving town. How about if you send it up after I get back? He says, yeah, sure, whatever. He said, listen, I promise you, I'll give you a deal that's so sweet. And I'm sure you will. You know my net worth. You know my value. I used to go in to get cars, and they go, don't touch. Well, almost. They used to flip coins to see who lost. They'd have to go out and talk to me. Why? Because I was a tire kicker. I didn't have any money. But now you're sitting in a situation where you can increase your income any amount you want. And if you get ahead for your finances, you can decrease your debt down to a management level. Now, here's the other thing. Understand in this process that you will be spending some money, but your money should not be spent on consumables, consumer debt, not creating any debt for any material things that are going to lose value. Your investment needs to be in you and your business to increase your people skills, your communication skills, your leadership skills, your goal-setting skills by the education you're going to get in this room and you're going to get on that table out there. Right? But don't buy something on that table that you are not going to read, absorb, and apply, or listen to, absorb, and apply. Don't. That's a waste of money. That's consumer debt. That's just buying something to have in your house to take up dust and it'll go into a garage sale and sell for a fraction of what you paid for out on that table. Do not come and pay for this meeting and spend your time out in the hall. That's a waste of money. I'm being very frank with you. But you do need to invest in materials to help you increase your income. That is business. That is a type of debt that the banks look at and see as very doable. Now, you're going to have to go to your bank to buy a book? I doubt it. Hopefully. Right? What you're going to do is you might use a credit card. Right? And that's fine, understanding that that is not the material, it's the information that you're buying and applying to increase your net worth so you can pay your credit card off and make a profit from that investment. Materials that you need to sponsor, QI brochures, first night materials, all of the different materials, you need to make those purchases so that you're sitting in a situation that you have everything available to build your business through the application of what you're learning here this weekend. That type of temporary debt or investment is actually what it is. That type of investment will increase your cash flow, which pays down your debt, giving you money for investments, and so you start creating income streams, more than just this business. I do not live on just this business. This business is actually not my number one income right now. Now, it kind of fluctuates with a couple of others. And right now, it's doing great, it's increasing, but I've got other income streams equal to or greater than this business. And I did that at Dexter Yeager's advice. He said, get 10 incomes equal to your Amway Global income. Right? Because he has. I mean, the guy's got 4,000 apartments. You know, he's doing okay. I mean, right? So you buy an investment. The idea of buying the investment is to be able to make that investment give you another income stream. Right? And you continue to do that through your life. And you never take money that you need to eat and take care of your family and make sure that your provisions are for an investment, but you never take investment money and spend it on frivolous things that have no value and have no worth after you bought them. That discipline right there will make you wealthy and will give you that sense of knowing what to buy and what not to buy. And that's what we're going to rehearse and practice together over and over again. You see, right now, think about it for a second. Outside of this room today, how many other people are advising you with the advice I'm giving you today? How many other people are willing to coach you and help you raise your income, lower your debt, and increase your net worth? Personally, come and help you without charging you. So stay in the room. Regardless, stay in the room, because as long as you're in the room, you are at the source that will help you. See, that's what I looked at, is no matter what the situations, the circumstances, no matter how many goals I missed, no matter how many frustrating points I had in developing myself and building my business, I always realized that the source that I was getting my information from was giving that information to me for free and with personal experience. And I've always respected that. I've always understood it. And once you, like anything else, it's getting into the process. It's getting into the habit. He's always talking about being mentally broke. This guy, has got so much money coming in, and I watch him, and he's frugal. He doesn't buy stuff he doesn't need. And sometimes we look at it and say, aha, he just bought an antique car. Right? That is ridiculous. He's got one of 3 cars in the world, a 1939, whatever, a Rolls-Royce travel car, road car, whatever they called it. And he drove it to Wendy's with a couple of guys to get a hamburger. I think, okay, what is that? That's lifestyle. Then 5 years later, he sells it for twice what he paid for it. Okay? So he got the lifestyle and that. Let me give you an example. I bought into a resort, and I went to it for the very first time, and I thought, wow, this is so cool. And I've gotten so much enjoyment out of it. It's the number 1 spot now, not anything to do with me. I happen to be one of the owners, but it doesn't have anything to do with me. I made no decisions whatsoever. But I get to go there. I get to enjoy it. I get to take my friends there to enjoy it. And it makes a 6-figure income every month. And the value of it has doubled in the last 5 years. Is that a good thing? Do you want those kind of situations going on where you can actually enjoy this stuff as lifestyle, and everybody looks, wow, what a lifestyle, and at the same time, increase your net worth and create a cash flow? That is good finances. You are in the threshold. You are at the baby step of that by what you have in your hands with this business and applying reducing debt by reducing consumerism. You'll have it all anyway. I sold my first TV set to go to my first function like this because that's what I had to do to be able to buy the ticket. The reality today is we have TVs we don't even use in our house. They're just all over the place. So we can go to any room and we can watch when we want to. That's just the way it is, folks. That's the way it's going to happen. I love you guys. It was great sharing with you.